Saturday saw the return of Doctor Who for season 7. Asylum of the Daleks was the episode, and it feels like I've been waiting forever for this. Obviously it has been longer than usual, but as it turns out, it was well worth the wait. I thought it was a great episode, a great opening episode, full of action and storylines and surprises. The biggest of which for me was the rather surprising introduction of Jenna-Louise Coleman. Wasn't expecting to see her yet until the Christmas special. When she first came on, I found myself sort of questioning myself a little bit for a couple of minutes of whether it was actually her, but it was. Just Doctor Who keeping us on our toes as usual. Gotta say, the actress herself, she seemed brilliant. I really liked her and I liked the character. Quite looking forward to seeing more of her. But, of course, in true Stephen Moffat's style, it sent us on a bit of a mind-bending curve to try and figure out how she's actually gonna get from being there to being the new companion in Victorian England, as I believe the Christmas special is based. Because, of course, at the end of this episode, she died. She was blown up as in the asylum. And, of course, the fact that she turned out to be a Dalek, which I thought was a really good storyline. Of course, there's lots and lots of theories going around that in the past, Doctor Who has brought back guest stars as companions. Karen Gillan and Freema Agyeman both did this. They both had small, just guest spots in Doctor Who before they came back as a companion. But I think it's very unlikely that this is the case this time. Partly because it's just too close, there's only another 4 episodes to go before she's brought back. And also because it was too big a role, the entire episode was based around the character, Oswin Oswald as she was called. There's also a theory that maybe she did know the Doctor, but he didn't know her yet, and this was her last meeting with the Doctor. However, to me that just seems a bit too close to the River storyline. I don't see that they'd necessarily repeat that again so soon. There's also a theory that it's the child of River and the Doctor. Again, I'm not sure of that one. For one thing, she was very flirty with both Rory and the Doctor, which in that case would be her dad and her granddad. There's also a theory that she is a young River herself. You know, people saying that the mannerisms reminded them of River a lot. And I can kind of see that. I mean, she was very confident and intelligent and very flirty, which is of course the way that River is. I also don't really see this. I mean, River has stated before that when they first met, the Doctor knew her and knew all about her, although of course she didn't know him. It did seem slightly hinted to me in this episode that possibly it was either around and she may have known the Doctor. There was a line where she told him to remember her, and this was after she just found out that she was a Dalek and she wanted to be remembered as a human. But it was something in the way she said it, and she then turned around and repeated for him to remember. There's also a theory that she's the daughter or relative of Oswin, or the sister. And there's also, of course, the idea that she could just be the same character herself. You know, I don't know how they would bring her back, but let's face it, it's Stephen Moffat, and Doctor Who can do the impossible. There is the fact, of course, that it has been announced that the new companion's name is Clara. But I can remember reading, before the episode aired, that the character's name was Clara Oswin. So, of course, there's the name connection there to Oswin Oswald, bit of a tongue twister, which in itself also occurs to me that Oswin Oswald, it kind of sounds like a fake name. It sounds like an alias. But like I say, this is only theories, and the only thing that's going to tell is time. Unfortunately, we're not Stephen Moffat, and we can't get into his mind. He works in very mysterious and clever ways, and it's quite likely that it'll be something that nobody will have thought of and nobody would have seen coming. And I really can't wait to find out. I love the idea of the nanocloud and the Daleks turning humans, dead and alive, into their sort of robot minions. It was quite creepy. I also quite enjoyed the storyline of Amy being transformed into one of these. I actually found the moment when she was asking the Doctor what was going to happen to her, and he then informed her that they'd had the conversation 4 times. Quite chilling. Of course, ultimately, it was all a set-up for the big emotional scene between Amy and Rory, which I actually thought was really well acted and quite a genuinely touching moment. It also made the whole plot a bit more believable, because at the start of the storyline, we were shown that Amy and Rory is getting a divorce, and they both seemed very out of character, and it just seemed very unconvincing and a bit strange. But of course, when it was revealed, it kind of explained everything. I thought it was genuinely quite sad to find out that Amy had been left unable to have children after what was done to her at Demon's Run, especially of course after she was denied the only chance to raise her child after she was taken away from her. It also made me realise that I'm really going to miss Amy and Rory quite a lot. They're not my favourite companions, I'm going to admit, but I do like them and I do enjoy watching them. I think I'm especially going to miss Rory. I still personally feel that as a character he's a bit undervalued really, and a bit underappreciated. I think a lot of people still see Amy as being the companion and Rory is a bit of the third reel. Whereas I think the character's really progressed and is a really good, interesting character that should be taken advantage of a bit more. The Dalek Asylum itself, I loved this idea. I thought it was actually quite terrifying, the idea of this whole planet that was a prison for all these sort of scarred, twisted, broken down Daleks. I just thought it had so much potential. It really could have made for a huge, scary storyline. But I must admit, this is the one area of the episode where I was slightly disappointed, because it wasn't really explored as it could have been. It felt like it was really a bit of a side story. And of course the asylum was then blown up at the end of the episode, which I suppose you could say sort of eliminates the whole storyline from being used in the future, but it's Doctor Who, so it may not be the case. But it's not seeming likely that we're going to go any further into that, which is a shame. Matt Smith himself was as brilliant as ever. I can't praise the man enough. I think he's a brilliant Doctor, and I think he just gets better, to be honest, as he goes along. I was a little bit confused as to how Amy, Rory and the Doctor was hearing Oswin in her human voice rather than a Dalek voice, considering that the whole time that she spoke to them she was a Dalek. I suppose it could be explained by the nanocloud. I mean, Amy saw some of the Daleks as people because she was being affected by this. The Doctor and Rory were not being were protected against this, so there's no real reason why they would have heard her in that way. Whether that'll be explained or if it's just one of those things, I don't know. I just found that a little bit confusing. But all in all, I loved it. I thought it was an amazing episode, and it, as usual, left lots of questions to drive you crazy. And I can't wait for more. So bring on next Saturday. But dinosaurs on a spaceship. I wear braces now. Braces are cool.